Shalom and welcome to the weekend edition of the Daily Dose of Hebrew. We're working our way through Jeremiah chapter 5. In the first three verses, Jeremiah had been wandering the streets of Jerusalem in search of a person who was seeking for God's righteousness and justice, who would do what was right. And he hasn't been able to find anyone. On the contrary, those people that he met seemed to be those who would refuse to take the Lord's correction. And Jeremiah is going to reflect on that in this verse a little bit further. So let's go ahead and read it in Hebrew, and we'll work our way through it. Va'ani amarti, ach dalim hem, no elu, ki lo yada'u derek Adonai, mishpat Elohehem. But I said, so what do we have here? This is a perfect, I said, personal pronoun over here, obviously. This is a perfect first common singular with this T, a formative ending on it. It's kal from Amar, so nothing too unusual there. But it is unusual to have the pronoun repeated, personal pronoun repeated at the beginning. You don't need it because it's included in the affirmative here. So, and I myself said, or I indeed said, certainly or surely, a little bit of an exclamatory adverb here, certainly, dalim hem. Well, dal is a word which means poor, so poor ones, poor people, these. This is an adjective being used as a substantive. These are the poor people. These are the, well, we would say, if we were to go to the next verb and look at it, we would say these are the people who really don't have much education or much understanding. That's actually what this next word would mean. No elu. So here we have, this is another perfect, and this is a third common plural. This one, however, is a nifal, which is why you see this nun at the very beginning of it, and it's from a verb ya al. There, and I'm going to put it in parentheses because it's not used in the kal. It's always found in the nifal, and this yod is showing up here as this primitive vav, right there, and it means to be foolish, to be ignorant. So that's what Jeremiah is coming to this conclusion. Well, these people that refuse to accept the Lord's correction, they're just the poor people. They have been ignorant. They are foolish. They really don't understand, because as your negation, they know. So they do not know. Again, just a perfect third common plural. There's a kal from our regular verb yada. They do not know. What is it they do not know? The way of Yahweh. This would be the way, because it's in construct with the following proper noun, Yahweh, Adonai, here. So they don't know Yahweh's way. And mishpat Elohehem, they don't know. Now, mishpat can mean judgment sometimes in terms of a decision, but here it's not so much the decision as it is the ordinance, the way, the right way that God would want his people to go. They do not know the ordinance, frequently translated that way. Elohehem, of the ordinance of their God. So this is Elohim, but this time with a pronoun suffix on it. This is a third masculine plural pronoun suffix. So it's their God. So that's what Jeremiah is thinking to himself, that the poor people don't understand. Maybe it'll be different if he goes to those who are greater, but we will see that in the following verses. So pretty straightforward in its translation here. Let's look at hide our work here and look at a couple different translations. The New English Bible, coming from Great Britain. I said, taking off the and I said, after all, for this surely here, this is sort of the conclusion he's coming to. These are the poor. These are the stupid folk. Stupid is, well, foolish in a biblical sense. That kind of foolishness and stupid, yes. Who do not know the way of the Lord, for they do not know the way of the Lord, the ordinances of their God. They've made this a plural. Here it's a singular, but the same idea behind it as well. So that's a pretty straightforward translation, the New English Bible. The Net Bible develops it out a little bit more. I thought, because that's actually what's going on here. He says, I myself, I said, so it's actually more of a reflective sense. So you could translate this, I thought, even though it's not the word for thinking. Surely it is only the ignorant poor who act this way. So they've kind of combined, these are the poor, they are foolish. They've kind of put that together in one phrase. The ignorant poor who act this way. That's not quite in the text, but it's implied. They act like fools because, here's your because here, or maybe they act like fools is actually picking up this part over here. You know, that's probably more likely with their translation. They act like fools. Why? Because they do not know what the Lord demands. They don't know the way of the Lord. So what the Lord demands, that's the way they're translating that. They do not know what their God requires of them, the judgment of God. So that's a good development. It's not a translation. It's more of an expansive paraphrase. The way of their God, the justice of their God, what their God requires of them. And one that I found just sort of amusing. Sometimes Eugene Peterson's The Message really hits something right on with the translation and developing it into his paraphrase. It's very paraphrastic. This one was pretty good until I got to the end, and then I thought, well, let's see. Then I said to myself, well, these are just poor people. They don't know any better. They're foolish. They were never taught anything about God. That may or may not be true. They do not know the way of the Lord. That may or may not be because they weren't taught. Perhaps they were taught and they refused. And then the justice of our God, or the ordinance of their God, they never went to prayer meetings. Well, I just found that a little bit amusing. I think I understand what he's saying is they haven't learned how to behave as godly men and women of their day would go, and he's transposed that into perhaps our own day. But I thought that's going beyond even just paraphrase. But I think we get the general idea. In any case, this is what Jeremiah is thinking to himself. Now, he's going to discover in the following verses that the problem is deeper, and it doesn't concern just the poor and the ignorant. It concerns humanity and the people of Israel right across the board, as it does all of us. So check back with us soon as we continue working through Jeremiah 5 in the weekend edition of the Daily Dose of Hebrew. Shalom.